Michelle Bachmann may be out, but her Tea Party brand of obstructionism, extremism, and willful disavowal of fact-based evidence is still alive and kicking in the U.S. Congress. Last night, Senator Ted Cruz kept the home fires burning as he touted a new generation of Republican flamethrowers to a group of donors in New York City.
If you sit back and you list who are the brightest stars in the Republican Party, you come up with names like Marco Rubio, like Mike Lee, like Rand Paul, like Pat Toomey, like Scott Walker. You have to go back to World War II to see such a transformation of the people leading the fight, leading the argument for conservative principles, being an entirely new generation of leaders stepping forward.
A generation of Republican firebrands may be the loudest voices in the room, but lately their screaming has had little to do with actual governance. At present, the GOP's winning formula seems to be complain about the other side not doing anything and then do nothing yourself. Nowhere is this strategy more prominent than in congressional budget negotiations. For 4 years, Republicans complained that President Obama and the Democrats have ignored regular order, the process by which bills are normally passed, in which both chambers of Congress vote on their own budgets and then come together to find compromise. But now that the Senate has finally returned to normal order and passed a budget, the first in 4 years, it is the Republicans who are ignoring regular order. For the past 2 months, Republicans have been blocking a meeting between House and Senate negotiators unless they can get a commitment that the budget talks will not lift the debt ceiling. In plain English, that amounts to no negotiations unless we get to keep the hostage. And yet, some Republicans, those who come from the long tradition of actually governing, aren't having any of it. Last week on the Senate floor, Senator John McCain tore into Senator Mike Lee for his obstructionism.
The senator from Utah keeps talking about backroom closed-door deals. If the senator from Utah wants to get rid of the, quote, backroom, all of the other adjectives and adverbs that he used, then what is the process? What is the process? How do we reconcile legislation that's passed by one body and the other body? That's what we've been doing for a couple of 100 years.
But is the GOP listening to anybody who actually wants to perform the job he or she was elected to do? For the last 200-odd years, the world's greatest deliberative body may have been a place of legislation and compromise, but it appears that tradition is ending. Last year, the 112th Congress went down in history as the most unproductive the country has ever seen, passing only 238 laws. According to the Washington Monthly, the current Congress is already on track to shatter the dubious record set by its predecessor. 66 days into the current session, Congress has passed a whopping 10 laws. And those laws are less than game-changing. The latest piece of legislation passed by the 113th Congress, Public Law 11310, which specified the size of precious metal blanks used for National Baseball Hall of Fame commemorative coins. Rick, are we to believe Ted Cruz that this is the greatest generation of fighters since World War II?
This is not exactly a panoply of Churchills.
Yes, to say the least.
No, it's incredible. It's as if this is Israel versus Palestine, not Democrats versus Republicans, where they're saying, here's my preconditions for negotiations. Is there any precedent for that? I mean, one House passes a bill, the other House passes a bill on the same subject, and then you have a conference to try and reconcile them. You don't have years of this is my precondition, and let's call in the Secretary of State in the United Nations.
They're going to have to go to Camp David to get a budget.
Right. And they're not actually. The only reason they're closed-door meetings is for the audio. I mean, you can't have the open door. You got these marble hallways outside. These are completely open meetings. Yeah. You can walk in there. You can sit down. Yeah. You can put your C-SPAN cameras there. These are not secret things. This is the House passes something, Senate passes something. They sit down and in an open forum.
You're letting facts get in the way. Cut that out.
Well, that's exactly what they don't like about them. Because when they get into those
they can't defend their budget.
Well, and they're going to have to be on the record about things that they don't want to actually admit that they're against.
No, but the other thing about this is the dirty secret here is the strategy they used back in 2011 on the debt ceiling deal absolutely 100% worked.
Totally.
The Budget Control Act is the creation of that high-stakes hostage drama. It created the super committee which died, and now it creates sequester. We are sitting here laboring under the economic drag of the austerity imposed by the sequester. We have levels of austerity greater than what they've seen in Europe. And so if you're them thinking completely logically, why not take another run at that strategy?
Well,
why go away from it?
And it's twofold, right? There's that legislatively that seemed to have been a boon for Republicans, but there's also the electoral strategy, which is to say, Michelle Bachmann may be gone, but I will read from the great E.J. Dionne, the Minnesota right-winger deserves to be memorialized with an ism because she perfected a tactic well-suited to the current media environment. Continually toss out outlandish, baseless charges, and eventually some of them will enter the mainstream media. You don't have to bat 1,000 or even 350 in this game. Get just a handful of your accusations and strange takes on reality into the political bloodstream, and you've won. Bachmann's method is now common currency. And also, Karen, it's a great way to raise money. This is shocking to me. In the first months of 2013, members of the House have collected $68 million. Boehner's up at the top, wow. $2.4 million. Canner, $1.2 million. Bachmann at a respectable $678,000.
Because they have institutionalized the concept of the ceremonial vote, right? We're going to vote for the 37th time against the Affordable Care Act because some people didn't get to vote against it before, so we're going to do it now, and then we're going to raise money off of that. We're not going to actually try to fix the problem. We're not going to actually sit down and tell you, here's where these are the things we would change. No, no, no. We're going to have a strategy on how we screw the president, not necessarily how we help the country. And that's basically what the strategy is.
But you know, Ryan, I was really pleasant. I was happy to see John McCain airing out Mike Lee on the floor of the Senate, saying, well, what do you propose we do? And actually saying, I mean, the Straight Talk Express seems to be pulling back into the station. I don't know how long it can linger there, but is anybody actually going to listen to that?
I don't know, because House Republicans, at least some of them, really do believe that they can use the debt ceiling and extract more concessions. You know, you can see that just by the strategy they're taking, but Paul Ryan has specifically said that to House leaders privately. He says, I think that Obama's going to negotiate on this. And they told him, no, like you yourself have said it would be a cataclysm if we went over this cliff, and we're not doing anything on it. But they're convinced that they can get something out of it.
And the other amazing thing about this, the other reason they're opposed to the regular order and conference committee and coming back into the budget is that then there's reconciliation there, and that means it's going to be an up or down majority vote. And Ted Cruz explicitly said, I do not trust an up or down majority vote. I mean, this is we have gotten to the point where in terms of institutionalizing dysfunction, the 60 vote threshold has been so institutionalized that they're now using the 60 vote threshold as the normal thing that is the reason to not go through the normal budget procedure, because the normal budget procedure has a majority vote.
You know what, though, Rick, you know, a lot of people think Harry Reid punted by not pushing for filibuster reform. There is now renewed talk. There is talk that maybe he has 51 votes to do that he could do it. And yet, it's weird to me that he stands on, I guess, bipartisan principle here with regard to not pursuing more zealous reform. And yet those that he is theoretically protecting are so, they embrace the idea of sort of bastardizing parliamentary procedure for their own ends.
If you look a little bit farther down the road than the current horrors, the Democrats really have got to make filibuster abolition part of their program.
Yes.
It's got to be like pro-choice. It's got to be a litmus test, because this has been going on for years and years, and it's the biggest block to doing anything about our country's problems, and it's the easiest one to fix. Right. All it takes is 51 votes in the Senate.
But it also plays exactly into the mindset of the Tea Partiers, the mindset of, you know, where the Republican Party is, which is to prove that government is dysfunctional, that government doesn't work, by actually making it not work, by standing in the way of actually how it's supposed to work. They're trying to, I mean, so they're winning their larger argument by creating the very crisis, right, that contributes to that argument.
That's why it's such a mistake for Democrats to think, oh, we don't want to get rid of the filibuster, because what happens when the Republicans are in power? Then they'll get to pass their bills. Right. No, no, no. What you said, Karen, is exactly right. Their whole philosophy is government doesn't work, so they're perfectly delighted to throw wrenches into
and particularly on judges, they have no problem getting through Scalia, Alito, and Thomas. So, like,
and then when the president actually tries to fill judicial vacancies, he's accused of packing the court. The hypocrisy knows no bounds. Sadly, we have to leave it there, and I have to say goodbye to my good friend Chris Hayes.
Am I going into like a hospice care or something?
No.
You'll
be back
really
next week.
Intense goodbye.
No, we love having you on the show, and so therefore, anyway, God, I really stepped in it there. Chris Hayes, Thank you, my friend. We will be watching your show All In tonight
Yeah, if I survive
and every
till
week.
then.